Good evening. Thank you for joining us. As always, I always love these parent chats. It's been a little while since our last one, so excited to be connecting with you all again. Those joining us live, feel free to pop stuff in the chat if you've got questions. Always appreciate the questions that came in ahead of time to be able to help us prepare it and know what you all want to know about. But continue to ask clarifying questions or additional questions in the chat. Those of you watching the recording after the fact, thanks for taking the time and joining as well. If I haven't met you yet this summer, and I probably have on one of our either parent chats or forecasts from Flagstaff, my name is Chad Eichhoff, and I have the honor of serving as Director of Admissions here on campus. And I'll throw it over to Alicia.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. My name is Alicia Stewart Wojtek. I serve as Associate Vice President, Campus Operations here at NAU and oversee housing and residence life, all the housing on campus. I also was a parent of a recent college graduate and a recent freshman, so I can also relate to being a parent of a college student, so I'm right there with you.
Good evening, my name is Annika Olson and I serve as the Vice President for Enrollment Management. So I work daily with both Chad and Alicia on our enrollment efforts, and thanks for joining us this evening. Similar to Alicia, I have a recent graduate of NAU as well as a new freshman that will be starting his college career in August. So also in the thick of it, wanting and needing answers to some questions as well. So we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. So hopefully we can answer all those questions. We got a number submitted in advance. And then we actually just were on an Instagram live takeover with our new 17th president of the institution, started 3 days ago. Our new President Jose Luis Cruz Rivera, and he will also be joining us on next week's forecast from Flagstaff. So we know the forecast is really geared towards answering questions. We started them last summer as information was coming fast and furious and decisions were being made. We started both the series of parent chats for kind of parents only, as well as the forecast from Flagstaff episodes to get out information that we know not only our campus community needed to know, but really geared towards our incoming new students and parents. And to that end, a number of the questions, as always, are surrounding the pandemic and our requirements and those types of things. And just about 24 hours ago, the governor of Arizona did sign Executive Order 2021-15 that states that none of our institutions of higher education will require the vaccine. So I think that is the biggest top of mind question embedded in so many of the other questions. As for the rest of the executive order, we are examining our current policies and practices. Again, it's about 24 hours old and expect a communication to be out in the next day or two. But we also are constantly updating that Jacks Are Back website. That is kind of the hub of all activity for need to know and changing information. It is a fluid situation. We 100% are encouraging all faculty, staff, and students, new and continuing, to get their vaccine. We know scientifically that is the best choice for keeping the masses as safe from the pandemic as possible. It's also your personal choice, and we understand that as well. So I just wanted to make sure we touched on those kind of at the top of our time together, that yes, we are strongly encouraging students, faculty, and staff. And when we surveyed faculty and staff in the late spring, after we had a few months of vaccines here on our campus, so super convenient, well over 90% at that point in time were fully vaccinated, with another smaller percent already having one dose on board, and a smaller number I think it was less than 3%, choosing not to get the vaccine at all and not planning to. So again, vast majority have been. As always, the well-being of our lumberjack community, as well as our partner communities, are critical and important to us. And that's really going to be the safety of all is going to be our guiding light moving forward, taking into account our new state regulations, as well as the CDC requirements and suggestions. So reading all the COVID questions that were submitted, I think that kind of touches on all of it. Knowing about that executive order, I'm certainly able to look up. It was well reported on during prime time last night on the news channels here in the state. But to that end, we also understand that everyone needs to make choices about what that means for them and their student. And so we certainly encourage conversation at home regarding that. So I think that kind of kicks it off. I'm going to turn it back over to Chad to dig into all the questions we received.
Awesome. Thank you, Annika. And kind of categorize these a little bit to try to organize it as we go through. And I saw someone asking the chat if this is recorded, because I think there were the dad joining, mom's joining later, something like that. If you click that exact same link you click to watch this, it'll be there after the fact recorded. It usually takes a little bit to buffer after we wrap it up, but it'll be right there at this same link. And for better or worse, it's going to live out there for a long time for you to check it out. And we'll be there. Orientation was another topic that came up, and really there was kind of just one big question around when they should be hearing from their True Blue ambassador. And your students should have already heard from them or will be hearing very shortly if they haven't, because they have a Jack Chat this month during the month of June, where we're asking for them to be able to jump in and get the social aspect of meeting other students, and also the opportunity to meet some current students as well as incoming students through those Jack Chat opportunities. And your student would have received an email, kind of a broader communication that laid out those dates specifically. So those dates should be on their radar already. And then their ambassador will reach out as they get closer to the actual date of that Jack Chat. I know that students that have participated and our ambassadors have been thrilled to participate in those and really love that opportunity. Although in a virtual space, that ability to connect with students, which we realize is just such an important part of that transition to college, is to meet other students. So be sure that your students check in their email, and I will actually say emails, be checking their personal email, which they probably were already in the habit of, but make sure they're also checking their NAU email address, because there are important things that do get communicated directly to their NAU email address. So going to get Alicia involved now and throw some housing and dining type questions her way. The first one I always want the update on is it too late to apply for housing?
Yeah, thanks, Chad. No, it's not too late to apply for housing. We do guarantee freshman housing, but even if you're coming in as a transfer student, you can still apply as well. So we have space, we'll be able to accommodate you. If you're thinking you're still on the fence, you can go ahead and apply through the housing portal. Once you've accepted your offer of admission, then you'll usually within that 24 hours, you'll be able to apply for housing. So what you want to do is just again, go to the housing portal, fill out your application for this upcoming term, and then we'll walk you through the steps. If you've already applied and you're wondering about room selection, again, as Chad mentioned, keep checking that NAU email. That's where we'll send your room selection time. And as a reminder, your room selection time is just your start time. So if it's June 20th at 10 a.m., that would be your start time. You can pick your room then or anytime after. Although what I'll say is that we're aiming to probably wrap up room selection at the end of the month, at the end of June, because we do need time to then post your charges so you can see what that looks like on your Louis account. So if you want to select your own room, be sure you get in there and do that before the end of the month if you haven't yet used your time. And otherwise, we'll assign you a space after that. So you can still have a space. If you don't select your room, we will still assign you. But if you want to choose from what's available, that's your opportunity through room selection.
Thanks, Alicia. There was a question submitted ahead of time around what the fees are for honors. the honors college experience, and then also kind of a separate and would be a curiosity for all, not just students in the honors college, is kind of estimated cost around meal plans.
Yeah, so for honors, you have, so as part of the honors college, you have an honors college fee for kind of the whole experience, and that's $350 per semester. That is the lowest price in the state, but that goes towards academic experiences, field trips, guest speakers, supporting that honors college experience to make that even better. It goes back into scholarships, so a lot of opportunities there, and that's for the honors college itself. For the residential portion, in terms of living in the residential college, living in the honors college itself, that will range whether you have a shared room or a private room. Per semester, the shared room is $3,600 per semester, and the private room is $39.99. That sounds funny when you say it that way, but it's just under $4,000 for a private room. And so depending on the room type, will dictate that. For everyone, in terms of meal plans, for freshmen, you choose from one of the standard meal plans on campus, and that will range depending on the number of weekly meal plans, the number of weekly meals you have. So 10, 14, 19, and then there's a few other options you can explore. But for those main three options, they range from $23.53 per semester to $29.13. All these rates, since that's a lot of numbers to throw at you, you can find housing rates on our Housing Your Residence Life website. You can find dining, meal plan rates on the NAU dining page, and Honors College. You can explore more about the Honors College if you just do nau.edu/honors. So that will get in more detail if you missed any of those rates. But so for the Honors College, you know, if you total that together, it range from $63.03 to $72.62 on the high end for all that combined.
There's a question that came in. It's kind of a financial end of housing type question around if financial aid can be applied towards off-campus housing. And what I would say with that is that financial aid that you have awarded to you, it first covers tuition, then covers mandatory fees. And then if you end up having money beyond that, that's when it can start covering other things. If you're living off campus, you could utilize those funds that way. But I did think that this question offered an opportunity to kind of clarify a little bit or talk a little bit about properties that are associated with NAU, maybe some benefits to living on campus. The particular question mentioned an off-campus property and called it an NAU housing property. So I think there is maybe some confusion or clarity that can be given around buildings that are off campus, whether they're NAU affiliated, what's NAU affiliated. So I'll let you clarify that a bit, Alicia.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about kind of the different types of housing. So on campus, managed by NAU as our primary residential experience. And so those are the halls as you're coming in as a freshman. We encourage you to live in as your freshman year because it's really focused on that transitional experience. And most of our students, typically about 90% of our incoming freshmen choose to live in one of our NAU managed campus halls. In addition, there is partnered housing that's on campus, but owned and managed through a private company that is in partnership with NAU, but managed separately and has a different set of lease agreements, lease terms than the NAU managed halls. Those are really geared to upper division students, and so those are options as you continue on in your academic career, as well as we have additional apartments that NAU manages too that you can reapply and live in as you continue on as well. And then there's off-campus properties which are not located on the campus and they're managed by private companies, or you might have private homes and that kind of thing. So really the benefit of the NAU managed halls is when, as Chad was talking about, kind of the financial aid, how that works. The convenient part is not only is it convenient in terms of location on campus and being right there in the heart of the whole campus experience and close to dining, close to classes, close to resources like the library. It really is easy to get around. You don't need transportation. You can walk and take the shuttle. That convenience, but in addition to the physical location convenience, is also in terms of the payment. The NAU housing rent rate is all inclusive. So it's just one rate. It includes all utilities. New this year, it includes laundry, so you don't have to worry about paying per load for laundry. So really just have that one rate. and we post it to your student Louis account. So you don't have to worry about finding it elsewhere. It's all together with your other college expenses. And if you have financial aid beyond that tuition and fees, it will automatically apply to your housing rent if you're in an NAU managed hall. So there's convenience that way and predictability. You don't have to worry about, again, additional monthly bills. So we really highly encourage, especially your freshman year, to live on campus. Again, our programmatic structure, our staffing structure really supports that transition to college. So you have resources and staff there available for any questions and concerns that you have, and really help enrich that whole experience. We do a lot to really enliven and have a vibrant campus experience. So we highly encourage you to do that. And then as you return for your second year and on, again, we will do some information about reapplication, and you can choose from one of our suites or apartment style buildings with a varying cost structure to help meet different financial needs and still maintain that convenience here on campus.
I'm going to skip ahead just because we had a question about parking in cars and whatnot from the survey ahead of time, but I'm seeing a few of them coming up in the chat. So just going to answer that now, that the parking permit, the ability to sign up for those, August 1st is when that goes live, and your students can request those there. The reason we can do it that close to the start of the school year is that it's actually, you put your license plate info in there, and it's parking by license plate as opposed to an actual physical permit. So prices are, but last I heard, are going to be the same as the previous year for that. So to get an idea of cost, you can look at the prices that are out there for the previous year. And I saw that the folks helping us in the chat, which I think is Abby and Jenny, maybe Fred helping us tonight in the chat, drop that link there, nau.edu/parking is where you'll go to get all that information. And there's kind of a question of, can first year students, are they allowed to have a car? The answer to that is yes. Is it a necessity? I would say no. And if you were asking our student ambassadors that, you get a mix of answers around whether they had it, whether they didn't. And there's pros and cons that you need to weigh as a student and as families, if it does make sense to have a car here. But definitely it's not your student driving from their residence hall to their class and back, that kind of thing. It's going to sit here on campus, probably in the same parking spot, with the exception of when you go off campus to do things or explore Northern Arizona or go back home to Phoenix or something like that. So a luxury, but not a necessity for a car, I would say. The next category had a question kind of around the student support topic, and I'm going to throw this your way, Annika, about for first year students, like what support services are available. And then also they kind of asked a question where I think they're wondering if their student will actually take advantage of those. So like, are they mandatory, or maybe what they could do as a parent to encourage them to utilize those?
Yeah, great question. I'm having this conversation in the evenings with my son as well. There are a ton of support services for incoming students. For those that live on campus in the residence halls, they have resident assistants that live with them. They're upper division students who have made a successful transition to college and are very aware of all of those resources, and will be doing events in the hall and encouraging students to get out and explore those resources at the beginning of school and throughout the academic year. It's not just like all these resources are here like during the first few weeks, but they're there throughout the whole year. I strongly suggest having this conversation, even if you weren't the person that asked this question, with your student. Resources are there. We have free tutoring that's super accessible in multiple locations across campus. We certainly encourage students to bring a computer or laptop, but we have access to those. We also have the library checkout laptop program. So if you don't have one, no worries. There's a number of places throughout campus that students can get copies or make copies or print things, sometimes for free. So that's awesome too. We also have what we call supplemental instruction courses. These are courses that are traditionally more challenging for students as they're transitioning from high school to college. So we have a student that has completed that course successfully, take the class again alongside the students, and then they have discussion sessions and work sessions with the students to ensure that they've really understood what the professor is teaching, and can help understand if there was something missed. So supplemental instruction, there's also peer mentoring programs. Really, there's resources for our first generation college students. Really, there's just a ton. Right when your student moves to campus, and during the first kind of 10 days of the move-in period, as well as the first week and beyond of classes, we have a number of opportunities that it would be hard to walk across this campus without a student seeing some resource or an organization to be a part of, or a way to become further involved. From our career services team, and encouraging students to explore jobs on campus and off campus through our handshake piece, our handshake website where students can upload a resume and all that, find a job. So handshake, all the clubs and organizations. I think we have a club and organization fair, Chad, maybe tomorrow?
Friday, I think. I've got a calendar to share at the end of this. I'll put up there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to share a calendar of the next couple of weeks of events with you all at the end. So students certainly can engage virtually in the ones virtually this month and next, but we will have an in-person one when they get back as well. The Lumberjack Experience, which is kind of the first 10 days I was just talking about. So you got career services, you have clubs and organizations, and you have really big campus-wide events. We have a concert. And then those RAs in the halls teams, excuse me, I get so excited about services.
And I do want to confirm, yes, Friday, virtual student involvement expo, 3 to 5 p.m. So encourage your students to attend that. They should have received an email about that.
That's awesome. And they don't have to be there the whole time. If they're working, they get off at 3:30 or 4, they can come for the last hour. So no fear, no worries there. So they will just, I know I got like a frog in my throat. So there's a ton of different resources. Now, mandatory, there's not a lot of mandatory. I do think the RAs do have a mandatory first floor meeting to talk through kind of being a good community member, working through your roommate agreement and some other pieces. But beyond that, Alicia's team of RAs are just super equipped. If they notice a student's, doesn't have their door open, isn't socializing, they're going to come by and encourage them to do so. So that's what's so great about another piece that's so great about living in the hall. So we got Lumberjack Experience with new events being added throughout the summer to that. We have some of the traditional big traditions we have, a first football game tradition running of the freshmen, the letters, a number of events right at the beginning to get students kind of out and familiar with campus and each other, and a number of student support services, academic support throughout the academic year. And it's always best to get involved in some of those services sooner rather than later, and not get behind or get a couple poor grades on tests and then have to dig out from a hole. We encourage students to access those services, which are free, as soon as they kind of get through their first class meetings. I think I covered it. Chad,
so,
right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, and I think the best students are the ones that ask for help and reach out for resources. So really recommend that. If you saw me chuckle a little bit ago, it was at Aaron, their comment about laundry. Did you seriously say laundry is included? Holy cow. According to my older kids at different universities, this is big if it's true. So it is in fact true.
That is
so
true.
We're gonna have the freshest smelling campus we've ever had here come this fall.
That is true after having students go through and just even if you yourself experienced a laundry situation on a campus. It's also convenient because students, now I told this to a friend of mine over the weekend, they can log in and see if there's even a machine available. So they don't even have to haul it down and hope for the best. They can literally log on to their hall, see what laundry machines are available. And then if one is, they start it, and then it'll text them a message when it's time to move to the dryer. So it doesn't fold the laundry, but it does pretty much everything else.
This is, I would say, on a side note, it's a great topic to talk about the summer and get prepared. If you maybe do some trial runs of your own laundry, if you haven't been used to doing your own laundry, and kind of talk about darks and lights and all that kind of thing. But yeah. So we usually have bulletin boards in the laundry room that kind of give you some laundry tips as well. But it's a good practice session for the summer to-do list.
So Alicia reminded me, I forgot one of the most important questions you probably all want to know about housing is around move-in and what that looks like. We had a question submitted ahead of time about, when are we going to find out? We're coming from out of state, want to make travel arrangements. What would you say to families about moving?
Yeah, if you are concerned about, it's going to be so long before I can choose my move-in appointment, which does happen later in the summer, we do that purposefully just to get the closest to where everyone's living, and so that you see, where you can choose your move-in appointment from. But that shouldn't stop you from planning. We will have more move-in appointments than people, so we'll have plenty to choose from. So if you know the date that you want to arrive, you can still make your travel plans for that day, and there will be plenty of move-in appointments, again, to select from. We're going to be in 45-minute blocks. So say you're planning on coming in around 1 o'clock, and give or take, you might choose the 2 o'clock appointment, so give yourself some buffer time, and you'll stop and grab a snack on the way in or something like that. But there will be plenty of times to choose from, so you don't have to wait for that move-in appointment specific time to start making your travel plans. So go ahead and do that. If you have any questions, you can call us about that. And again, that Thursday through Sunday, the 19th, 19, 20, 21, 22, that whole 4 days where the majority of our move-in appointments will land. If you're wanting to come in early or needing to, that Tuesday, Wednesday, the 17th, 18th are early move-in opportunities for a $25 a night. In addition to your rent, you can check in early. If you're in the Honors College, you'll actually move in early, and that helps us with the travel flow. So we will not charge you that extra $25 if you're in the Honors College for that reason. But again, those appointments really help the move-in traffic flow be very smooth, and we've gotten it down to a good, a good cadence from all the years of doing it. So, yeah.
All right. Some kind of next steps or enrollment type questions that came in ahead of time. And one of them is kind of like, are the classes set in stone, or can the student talk with their advisor? Absolutely, they can talk with their advisor. What we do, we have what we call priority enrollment, where the student fills out that profile and begins that conversation with the advisor, and they'll start building a schedule based upon that. But your student does have the opportunity to actually meet with their advisor as well. And they're doing some kind of virtual sessions or modules they want you to go through first to get kind of the high level overview, but then you do have the opportunity to meet virtually. By you, I mean your student has the opportunity to meet virtually with their advisor and make any adjustments and changes that they see fit. I would point your student to nau.edu/gateway. That is our Gateway Student Success Center, where our first year advising takes place. So that's going to have the resources around priority enrollment, around the kind of pre-advising stuff they want you to do. And then once your students completed that ability to sign up for that advising appointment. And I've got a couple of questions that have come in the chat going back to the housing topic.
I have something to add about that advising too. Once your student's gone through their advising online modules, which are pretty quick and efficient, and as Chad said, high level in that one-on-one, if then they're sitting with their schedule and want to swap out a class, I know this because I just did it last night with my first year student. They can do that. They can go in and swap around classes. The one caution I would, if it's a liberal studies class for a different liberal studies, that we do have progression plans that we like to keep students on, because you, as well as our team members here, want to make sure your student graduates in 4 years. And so we would hate for them to make a change and then it not be on track for that progression plan. So I would just throw that caution out there, but certainly they have the ability to go in and add and drop classes once they're through that initial advising.
Thanks for the questions coming in the chat, and a couple kind of clarifying ones that we're back in the housing boat here again. For Alicia, yeah, when will charges post for housing? And then also there's a clarifying question around the free laundry, if that applied to the Honors College as well.
Yeah, free laundry and honors as well. So great. And then as terms of charges for rent posting, all the charges for housing should be posted by July 15th. We're going to be working on them that week leading up to that. So you may see them even a few days earlier, but all the charges of anyone who has a room assignment by that time, we'll have them posted by the 15th of July. If you happen to apply for housing after that time, again, we'll still keep the application open. We'll post as we assign after that point in time.
Annika, could you talk a little bit about official transcripts? That's a next step that we're asking students to do. And the question that came in was, do they need to, before they pay this fall, is there a certain date we need to buy? Let us know about that.
Great question. We have asked for those final official transcripts with graduation posted on them by July 1st. And so that's in just a couple weeks. Most of those from your high schools are transferred electronically. So it really does get to us fairly quickly. But we realize that some folks may miss that date. But I will say your financial aid does not disperse to your student's account until we have that final official transcript. And that actually is a federal policy. That's not an NAU kind of like, we're going to hold it back. That's a federal policy. So definitely should be on the next couple of days to-do list to order that transcript and get it sent here. So we receive it by that July 1 deadline. If you're a little after that, don't worry about it. But July 1 would be best to make sure your financial aid, that includes scholarships, loans, grants, make it to your student account and aren't delayed in any way.
There was a question that came in ahead of time around when their child will find out about scholarships and financial aid, what's been available to them. So if your student received one of our first year scholarships, that is something that we do evaluate at the time of admission based on what they self-report for their grades. You can find the different requirements for our general first year admissions scholarships on the financial aid website. And those we're looking at an unweighted high school core GPA to calculate those. If for some reason it looks to you like your student should qualify for one of those and they don't, I would encourage you to reach out to admissions@nau.edu and we'd be happy to take a look at it. But those general first year scholarships would already have been awarded. In regards to need-based aid, that would require the submission of the FAFSA. And if that's something you have not yet done as a family, as a student, would encourage you to do that still. There are federal funds that are certainly still available in consideration for other institutional funds as well too. So would encourage you to submit that sooner rather than later to see if you do qualify.
The other thing I would add there is if you know your student got something, but you can't remember quite what it is because maybe they were awarded a number of months ago, your student can log into their LUI account, which we have, most of them I'm sure have done at this point. But there's a section in there, my account and financial aid. And so I'm looking at it right now because I pulled it up because I figured we'd be talking about charges. And Alicia mentioned, once your hall and room are selected, we'll post those charges. So what you see is a total amount owed under account inquiry, and then what's due now and a future due amount. And in financial aid, the top menu item is view financial aid. And so in there, you will have what has been offered and accepted for your student. So we automatically accept any scholarship money and grant money. So the two kind of free money pieces that there's no free money, I know that, but the two that, no one would decline us giving you a discount on tuition, right? So we accept those. What we do not accept are student loans or anything else. So if a student has been offered a loan, they would need to accept that and indicate the amount, but the full amount they're accepting, maybe they're only accepting part of it. And then once they do that, they'll be asked to go through like a master promissory note and some to-do items. But on their main page of their Louis account, it lists their to-do items. But you can go in and you can view financial aid and look at the charges that are out there now. If your student is already enrolled, gone through advising, has a full schedule, they very well may see tuition on there, but we haven't yet dispersed that financial aid. But in that view financial aid, you can take those amounts and then kind of do the math there. I would also add that Chad's going to put up a calendar here at the end of our time together that includes some sessions about financing your education. And so it really walks through those critical dates, when bills go out for the fall, which is really the second week of July. And then 10 days before the start of school, we put your financial aid to your account, and payments and all of that good stuff are covered in those sessions. And those sessions are also recorded. So when you see the dates and time and it doesn't work for your calendar personally, we have those recorded. So you can watch, and at the end of those presentations, there's the ability to schedule some one-on-one time.
Yeah, and I would say as far as the recorded piece, since we've already had some of those webinars, we actually already have recordings. Like we love to have you join us live for stuff and be able to have that dialogue back and forth. But as far as those financing your education webinars, we do have recordings there. Don't bail on us now on the parent chat, but when this wraps up, if you search on YouTube for NAU Parents and Families and go to that YouTube channel that pops up there, that is going to have the financing your education, different steps, and kind of talk through that ability to set up and maintain your account, and all kinds of other financial stuff. And that's an ampersand in there, the and symbol. So NAU Parents and Families. If you search YouTube for that, you will find that channel and be able to dive into some of those webinars. Let's see, there was one more financial question that had come in ahead of time. Anna, I'll throw your way. On my daughter's account, it still shows her financial aid and parent gap loan is pending, or that the parent loan is pending still. She also got a bill saying she owed $8,000. Like, kind of, will that come out of financial aid? How does that work? When do you actually pay?
And those will be covered in that session. But in the meantime, that if that parent loan's still pending, parent loans are kind of a separate process, but very much related, right? We have to wait because when you're offered a parent loan and you as the parent go back into the student aid site on the government website and then apply and initiate a credit check, which needs to happen. And sometimes that happens not always in quickly. And so that's probably what that pending means. Well, it's not probably, it's what that pending means if you've done that. And then in terms of kind of the upcoming major milestones, all the charges will be there and you'll get a fall bill in the second week of July. And then the first payment for tuition is due August 1st. However, if you have tuition, student financial aid that's going to cover that, you can look in that anticipated aid. Late charges don't start until after the start of the semester. Financial aid comes kind of the second week of August. And so all of it's cadenced in a very logical way, and that charges first payment due if that applies to you, and then financial aid hits, and then we move on from there. Again, more than happy to sit down individually with people and go through our worksheet. It puts in tuition, where you're living, what meal plan your student selected, and then takes you pencil in all your financial aid offered and accepted, and then it's math to determine total left. And then you split that in half, because the fall semester is one and then spring semester is another. And then we have payment plans that can further divide up that semester amount. And so again, more than happy to sit down individually with families via Zoom, over the phone, or if you happen to be on campus, happy to do that as well, and go through that worksheet alongside you, so it's pretty crystal clear, because it is a little confusing.
And I did see in the chat, it was a while back, I guess, they're kind of on that front of us being able to work with you as a family and sit down and talk to you, is if your financial situation has changed a lot in the last year, potentially from the taxes that you used on your FAFSA, certainly reach out to our financial aid office, and they're happy to see if a contribution appeal makes sense for you based upon that financial situation change that may have occurred.
Yeah, and I would add to students' NAU email, a communication has gone out saying if something's changed from that FAFSA, because this last year has just been wonky in terms of that, we are looking at that FAFSA, if you filled it out for the next academic year, is looking at those 2019 taxes, right? So it's been a beat, and lots have changed in 20 and in the early part of 21. So we realize that there's been some appeals to have us re-examine the whole financial aid package. And so your students have received that email saying, hey, if something has changed, fill out a contribution appeal. You can also go to the financial aid website and do that. Or again, as Chad mentioned, give us a call.
So we got one more question that I kind of threw in the other bucket of, do students need a computer or a tablet for class? I would say that's not a necessity. You can take notes the old school way, and there are computer labs available on campus for that. Certainly some students may like that or utilize that technology, and you'll see that in the classrooms, but I think you'll see a mix of people using that technology, and then also just, old school pen and paper, taking notes. I know myself personally, that's how I learn best, is to take notes that way. And then the other question kind of in that realm was, are textbooks digital or physical? And the answer to that is there's going to be a mix of that potentially, depending upon your class and depending upon your professor. And students are able to look up that information and see which mode they're looking for there. Certainly the industry of textbooks in general is making the shift towards digital a bit more. And I did have an opportunity to talk to our bookstore quickly before jumping on this parent chat to get a little more information around this too, because it sounds like oftentimes students really shop around trying to find a less expensive digital option than what the bookstore is offering, and know that our bookstore is like negotiating on your behalf, and that digital price that you find through our bookstore should be one of the best prices you can find out there. So it's a good option when it is digital to go through the bookstore here. There's also opportunities for new books and used books. There, you've got both options at the bookstore, and that used option can save money. And we also have the opportunity to rent books as well too. And the rentals can be either new or used. And really one of the most cost-effective things out there would be renting a used book. Could be a great way to save money on those textbooks. And a great thing about using the bookstore here on campus is that you know for sure you are in fact getting that correct book that your professor has requested that students utilize. So thanks for all the questions. Thanks for the folks on my team that are jumping in there, helping answer in the chat. I see lots of answers popping in there. I am going to share screen here for a moment and just be able to, I've got the calendar up. So let's see if I can do this right here.
And while you're doing that, Chad, a big thank you to our enrollment team members, Abby and Jenny, who have been in the chat answering some of those questions. And I'm not sure if Fred jumped in either, but if you're there, Fred, thanks to you too.
Yep, absolutely. So here's kind of a look at the next few weeks ahead. We know we've got a lot of stuff going on. By no means do we think that you're going to pop into all of these, but kind of what I've been telling parents and families is try to get into at least one of those financing your education webinars. I think that's a great opportunity and we saw several questions come in tonight that those webinars would address and go even deeper than we did tonight on those topics. So really encourage you to do that. We do have a Spanish language session tomorrow night. So if you or someone you know could benefit from that, we've Nancy on our team did a great job putting together a presentation that's going to give a lot of Spanish info in Spanish and high level kind of top questions that typically are asked. Every Monday, we do have just kind of an open Q&A time that you can jump into, you or your student, and ask those questions. Certainly, we're not limited to that time. You can always pick up the phone and call us or email us at admissions@nau.edu with any specific questions that you may have. You'll see on the 18th, this Friday, that virtual student involvement expo we mentioned earlier. And there's also a virtual student social coming up on the 25th. I know I'm talking to a group of parents here. Those are for your students, not specifically for you, but we're putting them on the calendar just so you know to encourage your students to be jumping in on that. And as we talked about, we do have a forecast from Flagstaff coming up next Wednesday, 5 p.m. Super excited about having our new president of NAU, Dr. Cruz Rivera, joining us and talking about his excitement for NAU. I've had the opportunity to engage with him a couple of times and just absolutely love how excited he is about being here in Flagstaff and at NAU and the direction our university is going under his leadership. So as always, like to say, these parent chats that you taking the time to show up just really shows how much you care about your students and know that you've got a whole team of people here at NAU that really care about your student and your student's success. And we look forward to seeing them on campus this fall. We're really looking forward to it and excited about it. But until we talk again, stay safe, stay healthy, and go Lumberjacks.